Hey up! So today we are making some chicken kebabs on the rotisserie, which is a fantastic way of cooking any kind of meat. To be fair, spit roast on a rotisserie, can't beat it. So I actually started making this marinade last night, but this has all been done. It's been marinating overnight in the fridge. I ran out of space in this large bowl for all the chicken thighs that I'd bought, so I ended up making a second marinade, which is a bit of a mixture of, well, I can't remember. To be fair, I'd had a few beers. I wasn't really up for doing the whole filming thing. Right, so what we've got here is, in total, I've got 3 kilos of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Now, this main marinade here, this is a take on something that's been a bit of an internet storm in the barbecue community here in the UK, and it's called the Kelebab. Named imaginatively after the lady that I think she first did it and named it, and there you go, it's taken off from there. It's essentially, though, a mix of different herbs and spices, tomato puree, olive oil, lemon juice, and what have you. The ingredients will be in the description below, so you can see exactly what we've done here. Now we're going to take the rotisserie. I've put one end of the forks on there, tighten that up nicely. That may end up moving because I want it to be central, so I'm not too worried about the position of that just at this moment in time. Now what we need to do is take each of the chicken thighs from the marinade, stick it onto the end of the skewer, and then thread it down all the way through. And then what we're going to try and do now is going to try and get it over these spikes. You're not going to get it over all 4 of them, so just try and get it over 2. And then pack that first one down, so that's right down at the bottom there. Now with the other one, the next one to go on, we're just going to turn it 90 degrees. So we're going to thread this one over the other 2 spikes. So again, through the end of the rotisserie at the top, all the way down. Try and squeeze it over that one there, and squeeze it over that one there, and then we're going to pack that on top of each other and squeeze it down. Now you're just going to repeat that until you've run out of them all, basically. Just keep turning it 90 degrees, alternating which spikes you put it on, and we're going to pack it as much as we can all the way up to the end. So you can see now we've kind of got to the end of those first spikes. These things are never quite long enough for a full length kebab. Not a problem. All we're going to do is keep packing it down, keep trying to turn it 90 degrees so you're stacking them in a different orientation to the last one, and then by the time I get the second set of spikes on, they'll all close together. And as you're picking the chicken up, if you notice that some of the inside isn't quite sort of got as much marinade on as you'd like, just scoop a little bit up, scoop a bit more into it, and that'll go in between it all, and it's going to just impound the flavour in that particular part of it. So that's the last one of these chicken thighs. So there's about 2 kilos on there. As you can see, that's quite a hefty kebab. It's looking like a good chippy on a Friday night. Obviously you see these things going vertical normally. This is going to be horizontal on the spit. What I've decided to do, because of the size of this, and putting much more on is going to really make it too big, I'm going to freeze this. I'm going to freeze this for the next time I fancy doing a chicken kebab, and it'll be fine. Just take it into the freezer now, take it out when I need it, defrost it, and do exactly what I've done. Right, so hands all nice and clean, mainly so I can drink my beer more than anything. Can't barbecue without beer, that's one of the golden rules. So that's the kebab all stacked on. Now it's time to put the other set of prongs on the other side. So I'm going to get that on. It doesn't really matter too much which orientation it goes, as long as your bit to screw it in is in the right place. Now what I want to try and do, let's twist this around so you can see it a bit better, is push this through the chicken. And as I do that, I'm going to try and squeeze it all together. As I said earlier, make it nice and tight, make it like one piece of meat rather than lots of little pieces of meat, and it's going to help to stop it from drying out as much. So that's not quite central on the skewer. I want to make it a bit more central, so I'm going to move this one a little bit further back, tighten that up, loosen this side off, and then push the whole thing that way. And you're looking to get it about even. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly in the middle, but the more to the middle it's going to go, the better it's going to turn, and the more even that sort of temperature is going to be from your heat source at either side. So that doesn't look too bad distance wise. It's pretty much central to the skewer. It's nice and solid. I've packed it all together, just turning it around. There's no sort of major, heavy bits, not really lopsided or anything. And that's it. So we'll go and light the barbecue now, and we're going to chuck that on once the barbecue's up to temperature. That looks epic, that. Looks very good. So now we're going to go ahead and light the barbecue to get the rotisserie on. So to make this easy, to make it really easy to get started, we're going to use a pretty standard piece of kit called a chimney starter. So you can get these pretty much anywhere. Weber do their own brand. Obviously it's a Weber name, so it's going to be decent. But you can, you don't have to spend the money that Weber are asking for these things. So the best way to light these, you can just use fuel cubes, but I like these little wood wool type things. So they're all natural. There's no nasty chemicals. There's no sort of petroleum jelly or anything like that in them. We're going to start by putting a couple of these at the base, and we're going to get those lit. They light straight away. And then all we're going to do is we're going to pop this chimney starter full of coal. You can use either briquettes or lumpwood charcoal. I'm using lumpwood today. We're going to pop these directly over the top of that. Just get a little bit of coal out, and then just let it do its work. So the way we're setting this up, this is a Weber 57 Master Touch. We've got these two sort of grates either side, so they will hold the coal and they'll keep it to each side of it, and the rotisserie basically sits across the middle of it all. So anything that you're cooking on the rotisserie is cooked indirectly. It's not going to burn from any direct flames or direct heat from the coal. Pretty cheap bit of kit really, but essential if you want to do some proper offset cooking on a kettle style barbecue. So as you can see, it's giving off quite a bit of smoke to start with, but don't worry too much. That's just the coal getting going. Once it gets going, once it gets hot enough, there's going to be no smoke at all. So this only lasts for a couple of minutes. So as you can see, the smoke has all but disappeared, and that fire is going quite well inside there. I can see it's going well because of the coals, the embers are burning up towards the top from the bottom. Once it gets all nice and white and what have you on the top and ready, burning away, then I'm going to chuck it onto the Weber. So the coal we're using today is Globaltic lumpwood. I think it's the birch version. It's a long burning, clean burning. Good value as well. It's my go-to charcoal at the moment, to be fair. These guys have got some pretty good range of products on their website. Go and take them a look. It's Globaltic. Okay, so the coal's pretty much burnt up to the top now. It's still black on top, but there's some good flames coming from up underneath. Don't leave it too long, because then all the bottom just turns to embers. So you want it to be still quite solid. So now I'm going to tip this into the barbecue. So I'm going to use a heat-proof glove because these things can get fairly warm. And as carefully as possible, and take it over to the barbecue and pour roughly an equal amount of coal into each side. Don't worry if you spill over, it's going to burn out. It's not going to cause any problems for what you're cooking. Pop that back away. So the coal's on. What I might need to do is add a bit more coal as the cook goes, see what the temperature is going to do, and then we'll take it from there. So now the coal's in, we're going to put the rotisserie attachment onto the barbecue. So these are purchased separately. It's basically a big ring which extends the height of the barbecue, and it's got a motor on one side and a slot on the other so that you can slot your rotisserie tool through it. You're going to slot this over the relevant bolt holes. Now use a heat-proof glove. You might need to just rearrange the position of your coals just to suit it so that your spit, your rotisserie thing, is going bang centrally through the middle of the coals as much as possible. You don't want any very hot spots on it, because that's the part that's going to burn, and nobody wants burnt. Well, saying that, my stepdad likes burnt sausages and what have you, but nobody wants burnt food, so we're going to try and arrange those so they're pretty central. Now before we go ahead and pop the lid on and get up to temperature, I'm just going to put another couple of extra bits of coals on there just to help it along. Pop a couple in each side. And they'll soon catch, and we'll keep that temperature up. So we pop the lid on. And then watch out for the temperature gauge. So the barbecue's now heated up to around about 200, just a bit less. Like I said, these thermometers on these sorts of barbecues aren't mega accurate, but you can rely on the fact that if it says 200 there, then where your meat's going to be cooking, it's going to be good enough temperature cook. So I'm going to go inside, get the chicken, and then come back out and pop it on. So I've been and fetched the chicken. It's time to put the rotisserie onto the Weber. Now they're quite easy to put on these, but they do go in one way only. So I've kind of set it all the wrong way around for which way I'm stood, but don't worry, I'll manage. So you need to lift up the piece of meat, which is no easy task, seeing as it's a good couple of kilos in here. Now I'm just going to get a quick swirl around and just mop up more of that juice that's sort of run off this. I'll transfer it over the barbecue, put one side of the prong in through the hole and rest the other one on, and then we're just going to squeeze that through into the motor. It'll locate in there, making sure those grooves, ow, that's warm, making sure those grooves are in there, and then we turn it on. And that's going to keep rotating in there, turning, cooking, getting heat on all sides. As I said earlier on, piece of meat this size, you're probably looking at about 2 hours. You want an internal temperature about 70 degrees, so we're gonna test it with a probe after about an hour, and then probably every 15-20 minutes or so thereafter until it's just right. It smells fantastic. So we'll pop the lid back on. I'm going to go inside and prepare some potatoes, go into a tray underneath. Those potatoes are going to get dripped on with all that juicy goodness and all the flavour coming out of the chicken. They're going to roast. They're going to be epic on their own, to be fair. So this is going to be a good dinner. So the chicken's been in for about 25 minutes now. Temperature's holding fairly steady, hovering around the 200 sort of mark. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some potatoes in underneath the meat. And hopefully all that juicy goodness is going to drip from the meat onto the potatoes and make them just even better. Now this tray, it's actually from IKEA. It's a stainless steel sort of roasting tin. Just so happens to fit perfectly in between the two sort of coal holds on a Weber 57. So I'll try and get that underneath there. Oh, lost one. Never mind. Shake them back out. Drop that in. because it's getting quite hot. Just try and get that underneath the meat, so everything that drips down, including any random pieces of meat that might accidentally drop off, they're going to drop into that, not going to be wasted. So pop that back on. And we'll see it again in about half an hour or so. So I've needed to add a couple of extra coals to the baskets just to keep that temperature up. It's humming away at around about 200 at the thermostat point, so it's yeah, it's doing fine, and it smells absolutely amazing. Right, guys, so we're about ready with this. This has been on for about 3.5 hours. A bit longer than I wanted to, but it is flipping cold. We've got a lot of snow here. Storm Eustace or Eunice has just passed through. It's very cold out here, so I've struggled to keep the temperatures up to where I'd like them to be. So we're going to take this off of the rotisserie now. Turn that off until it stops spinning. The cover, as you can see, it's got some nice blackened bits on the outside. Don't worry, that is not burnt, that is just flavour. So when we slice all that up and we mix it all up into a nice kebab with the lettuce and the tomato and everything else, that is going to be epic. It's not burnt, it's just caramelised. Right, I'm going to get my glove because this is going to be potentially quite hot. So we're going to take the skewer off there. I'm going to put it onto a chopping board, which I have pre-prepared to make sure I'm not juggling hot things. And we're going to get these lovely roast potato style, chippy style things, all that lovely meat. And look, a bit of that chicken has dropped into it, like I said it probably would do. That's all just adding flavour, all adding flavour. Right, put that back on. Yeah, so we're going to go inside now and slice this up and get it served up. Right guys, so we've got the kebab back inside. Still nice and hot, although the rotisserie is cooled down a bit now. So all we're going to try and do is we're going to try and slice it sort of pretty traditional style. So I don't mind this falling off onto the chopping board. It's a nice clean chopping board. Look at that, that's all cooked perfectly well. It's looking very nice indeed. And we're going to be wrapping this. We're going to be putting this into some wraps and pita breads with salad, onions, tomatoes, cucumber, all the traditional stuff. And if anybody wants anything, obviously, some sauces. But yeah, that is just falling away. That is absolutely perfect. There's no delicate way of doing this. You've just got to slice it and take it how it comes. It's going to fall away. My knife could do a sharpening, that's for sure. Well, Indy's found a bit of chicken that I dropped. Good thing about dogs, like we said previously before, you never have any food waste on the floor. So we've got a nice pile of meat there, lovely barbecued, succulent rotisserie kelebab, chicken kebab. So yeah, we're going to tuck in now guys, and we're going to enjoy. Woo! So